Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Appreciate you jumping on. The Franklin Templeton CEO commenting on Bitcoin. Is she a believer? Stay tuned to find out. Let's look at pricing here before we dive into some news. Bitcoin sitting at 68,408, up 0.87% in the last 24 hours. Ethereum sitting at 2,453, up 1% over the last 24 hours. Solana sitting at 162.82. XRP sitting at 0.509, up 2.68 over the last 24 hours. Let's jump into some news, ladies and gentlemen, and first starting with subjective views here. He says hashtag Ripple, hashtag XR community. At Ripple just hired Jim Green for their global head of policy role. It is interesting to note his prior experiences, which include Obama and Harris ties. So Jim Green here, this looks like this is from LinkedIn, excuse me. Here it says Vice President, Global Policy at Ripple, which is a new career here. Said it started at Ripple 3 months ago. And then previously here, his experience shows Staff Director, Technology for Obama, April 2011 to November 2012. Political Consultant for the DNC Finance, March 2006 to March 2011. So that was a 5-year span. And then finally, Finance Director for Kamala Harris for Attorney General in San Francisco, 2009 to 2010. So just a year there. So, what's key here is he has political connections already. So I would imagine that's a big part of the reason, obviously, Ripple was hiring him for those connections and obviously other experiences. Let's move on to Black Swan Capitalist here. He says an XRP price shock is inevitable. Ripple's already backed by institutions and governments globally. They're just waiting for regulatory green light to tokenize, stabilize, scale, and manage both global debt and hashtag currencies. Demand will exceed supply, driving prices higher. Banks unprepared for the next fiscal crisis, warns new report. So there was a report here saying, obviously, that banks are not prepared. Of course, banks are always waiting for legal clarity. And you know what? I hope this comes soon, because even I, as discussing this, get sick of waiting and saying, oh, we've got to wait for legal clarity. But that is the fact. The SEC has been very much anti-crypto. Elizabeth Warren has pretty much anti-crypto. So hopefully she loses to John Deaton in Massachusetts for the Senate seat. And hopefully Gary Gensler will be gone here in the near future, regardless of what happens with the election. That should get us some more clarity in the crypto space. Moving on to Mr. Mann here. Mr. Mann says, when SWIFT shifts over to ISO 20022 in November of 2025, this is the breakdown that other financial institutions will be given to need to tap into SWIFT. There are a few options. There is a high value option and a low value option and GPI. The low value option moves $10 trillion. Just think what the high value and GPI options do. The overarching package is known as SWIFT Essentials. And with the essential packages, these are your options. So let's get back to this and take a listen to the video from Mr. Mann here. Take a listen.
So here we have a view of the entire payments lifecycle. Also, we see the products and services that are included in SWIFT Essentials. So to begin with, we have payment initiation. And part of the SWIFT Essentials entitlement is SwiftRef. So SwiftRef provides the information required to correctly route your payments in a variety of formats. We also have payment pre-validation, which allows you to check and prevent for payment errors up front, increasing efficiency and cost savings, includes country-specific content validation, account validations through our central beneficiary account validation solution. Underneath there, you see KYC
Oh, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get back to that. I accidentally hit the pause button. Let's jump back in.
registry, which is our one-stop central repository hosted by us, removing the need for bilateral KYC document exchange. And then the financial crimes and compliance section, we have payment controls, which helps mitigate risk within your payment process through anomaly detection, which will ultimately allowing you to detect fraudulent payments before they go out and in flight. What is not included in Swift Essentials, but you'll see here, is transaction screening. This allows you to screen against sanctions entities. Moving forward to processing, we see Swift GPI. This was introduced in 2017. This allows tracking and traceability of your payments over the Swift network. And through this, we see 89% of transactions processed reach recipient banks within 1 hour. Additionally, part of your Swift Essentials is Swift Go, which is our low-value payment solution. So McKinsey did a study that estimated the total market size of low-value payments is 10.6 trillion USD. So Swift Go really builds upon GPI with different service level agreements and also visibility into deducts. Case management will allow you to streamline the exceptions and investigation process. And last year we rolled out Swift Securities View, which is really going to try to help the US market achieve T+1 and helps to reduce settlement fails through clear end-to-end tracking and post-trade processing. Next slide, please. So how does Essentials work? Well, I've just introduced it to you. I've discussed the entitlement, what you are entitled to, which also is included at the bottom of this slide. Once you decide on which solutions and products you'd like to implement, like anything within Swift, you place your e-order, and then you begin implementation. The majority of these products and services have a self-onboarding, as well as you're always welcome to engage with our professional services. There are a few that are mandatory onboardings. If you have any questions regarding the onboarding, feel free to reach out to me bilaterally. And then lastly, we have Go Live. That's when you start using your chosen service to achieve the goal of uplifting.
So there's that video from Mr. Mann on Swift and the Swift breakdown. And you can kind of see based on that video, all the details that are involved and why this crap takes so long. There's a lot of things they got to cover to make sure this goes right. So shout out to Mr. Mann for covering that there for us. And let's move on to this video here from Cointelegraph. $1.5 trillion Franklin Templeton CEO explained what made her a believer in Bitcoin. Take a listen here to the Franklin Templeton CEO.
Let's stick with the markets here. We've got a very special guest this morning. Jenny Johnson, President and CEO of Franklin Templeton, which has $1.5 trillion in assets under management. The 76-year-old firm was one of the roughly dozen to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF just last week after the SEC gave the go-ahead. Jenny, great to have you with us here on set.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with the Bitcoin ETF. I do want to, of course, get your take on the markets, but in terms of the Bitcoin ETF, we've seen massive inflows. That was expected in the early days. What do you expect as time moves on, and who are the incremental investors in this ETF in your view?
You know, it's funny, I'm known for saying that Bitcoin's the greatest distraction from one of the greatest disruptions in financial services, which is blockchain. So a lot of people took that as I'm not a believer in Bitcoin. And yet, you know, launching this ETF, you can see obviously the demand that's out there for Bitcoin. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that is. I think that one, from a blockchain standpoint, the ability to pay, Bitcoin's going to be a key component of that. And the technology is going to open up a lot of really interesting types of investment opportunities. We actually launched a tokenized money market fund. We're the first mutual fund first traditional asset manager to actually launch a 40 Act fund on a public blockchain, on the Stellar blockchain. So Bitcoin is just one of the suite of what we think are opportunities here. You know, one of the things that made me a believer is as I went around the world talking to people who would tell you, I had somebody who said, I keep 50% of my savings in Bitcoin because if I say the wrong thing in my country, I could have my assets confiscated. I remember talking to somebody in Israel who said, my parents and their parents had all of their assets confiscated. They keep a portion of it in Bitcoin. So there's a fear component to it that is considered almost a insurance or safety component. But I also think it's really important to fueling what is a next real opportunity in this blockchain world.
Right. So, I mean, the scenarios that you just outlined, that's the case for holding Bitcoin, the actual, you have the keys to the security as opposed to investing in an ETF. Right. So there's a use case for both.
For sure. But that still keeps a floor on the price, right? So it keeps on the floor on the price. And then if you've actually tried to acquire and deal with the keys, it's really complicated.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I did it at one point and then I was trying to actually figure out how to get back in, and it's hard. And so being able to open it up and have access to that through an ETF and just simply through your brokerage account is a much better way to access it.
What's your take, just pivoting back to the market?
So we know even for her, it's difficult to self-custody. Not an easy thing to do. I do it. It's not super easy. They definitely need to figure out a way to make that easier. But that's why they've done the ETFs, and that's why the Bitcoin ETF is doing so well, because they know it's easier for people to get it that way. So it's just one of those things. Until they make it easier to self-custody, people are gonna look to the ETFs. Regardless, that should help the prices. Not financial advice. Do your own research. We certainly got to be patient in this industry. I appreciate you jumping on. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow me on X @Orlando Mott, and we will see you on the flip side.